graphic. Let's begin by waving and greeting to our friends joining us by Zoom.
And Zoomies waving to us roomies. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lynchburg. Here we gather in a spirit of freedom and friendship. Whoever you are, whatever your beliefs, whatever your age, whatever your gender identity, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. As we work together for justice, compassion, and peace, we also acknowledge with humility that our buildings sit on Monacan land. My name is Gary Duvall. I have been a member of UUCL for 53 years, and I'm a member of the Sunday Services Committee. If you are with us for the first time, we are glad you chose to be here this morning to participate in the service for this church community we love. We would be happy to tell you more about our community during virtual social time on Zoom or in person in Drysdale Hall following the service. If you would like to receive our monthly newsletter and Friday email updates, you can fill out one of the yellow cards in the pocket on the back of the seat in front of you and drop it in the offering basket. If you're on Zoom, please fill out the contact form found on the homepage on our website at uuLynchburg.org. You may also wish to join our Facebook group. For those of you on Zoom, please note that the order of service is in the chat to the right of your screen if you're using a PC. If you're using a phone, the link is at the bottom of your screen. As we enter our time of worship, we light the flame of our chalice, sharing these words. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to bless and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life. Our opening words this morning were written by Bran Lennox. We have chosen to bring ourselves here to this sanctuary to gather as a community of faith. We join together in solidarity as a covenanted people who are drawn together by the promise of connection and the mysterious pull of the unanswerable. We draw on experiences of love and wonder to lift our hearts and move us beyond the mundane. As seekers, wanderers, and appreciators of nature, connoisseurs of curiosity, and creators of connection, our paths have converged today so that we might become present to the spirit that is worship. And so, let us worship together. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 169, We Shall Overcome.
Any young at heart folks who would like to join me and Nora down front for a story time? I think we can all tell that school is getting ready to start soon, and everybody's squeezing in one last bit of summer, huh? Well, I have a really good book today, and it's called What Do You Do with an Idea? Because you can do so many things with ideas, right?
It depends on what idea it is.
That's true. It does depend on what kind of ideas you have. One day, I had an idea. Where did it come from? Why is it here? I wondered, what do you do with an idea? At first, I didn't think much of it. It seemed kind of strange and fragile. I don't know what to do with it. So I just walked away from it.
How dare you?
I acted like it didn't belong to me. But it followed me. See his little idea? Following along. I worried what others would think about it. What would people say about my idea? I kept it to myself. I hid it away and didn't talk about it. I tried to act like everything was the same as it was before my idea showed up. But there was something magical about my idea. I had to admit, I felt better and happier when it was around. It wanted food. It wanted to play. Actually, it wanted a lot of attention. It grew bigger, and we became friends. I showed it to other people, even though I was afraid of what they would say. I was afraid that if people saw it, they would laugh at it. I was afraid they would think it was silly. And many of them did. They said it was no good. They said it was too weird. They said it was a waste of time and that it would never become anything. And at first, I believed them. I actually thought about giving up on my idea. I almost listened to them. But then I realized, what do they really know? This is my idea, I thought. No one knows it like I do, and it's okay if it's different and weird and maybe even a little crazy. I decided to protect it, to care for it. I fed it good food. I worked with it. I played with it. But most of all, I gave it my attention. My idea grew, and so did my love for it. I built it a new house, one with an open roof where it could look up at the stars, a place where it could feel safe to dream. I liked being with my idea. It made me feel more alive, like I could do anything. It encouraged me to think big and then to think even bigger. It shared its secrets with me. It showed me how to walk on my hands because, it said, it is good to have the ability to see things differently. I couldn't imagine my life without it. Then, one day, something amazing happened. My idea changed right before my very eyes. It spread its wings, took flight, and burst into the sky. I don't know how to describe it, but it went from being here to being everywhere. It wasn't just part of me anymore. It was now a part of everything. And then I realized what you do with an idea. You change the world. The end. So I love this book because sometimes I think of some really crazy ideas and I love to see what I can do with them, but it can feel very nervous and anxious to share that with everyone else. And so today we are talking about how we can use our imaginations to think up big ideas and then how we can take those ideas and change the world. So we're going to be talking about some fun inventions and how we can use creative play to make them come to life. And we are almost done with our summer program. After this week, we have one more Sunday in the RE room, and then in 2 weeks, we're all going to be in the sanctuary together, and all of the kids of RE are going to share with all of the grown-ups what we've been working on this summer, and it's going to be really fun. All right, Nora, you ready to go upstairs with me? All right, we're going to have some great ideas together.
The ministries of our church are supported by the love, talents, and efforts of our many volunteers and staff, as well as the monetary support of our members and friends. If you have found this church to be of value in your life, then I invite you to be generous, as our morning offering is freely given and gratefully received. We receive these monetary gifts along with the gifts of your time, work, and creativity, which also sustain our church. As together we give generously to support our congregation, let us also commit ourselves to a unity of spirit to make manifest a more just, peaceful, and loving world. It is our tradition to honor the whole of our lives, and so you, semi-retired Unitarian minister, and once minister of this congregation about 25 years ago?
Beginning of the century.
Beginning of the century. And you were our minister when we built the addition, is that correct? Yeah.
It's the minister and I was president.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to say in unison the reading.
Microphone?
Oh, I didn't push the button long enough. Thank you. We're going to say in unison the reading number 598, but first I want to say thank you to Gary and for others who were involved with the order of service and stuff. I changed the title midstream, and we were able to at least get it together enough to put it on the order of service today. So, and it's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. So we're going to read this in unison, number 598. It's in your hymnal. (598) May every creature abound in well-being and peace. May every living being, weak or strong, the long and the small, the short and the medium size, the mean and the great, may every living being, seen or unseen, those dwelling far off, those living nearby, those already born, those waiting to be born. May all attain inward peace. Let no one deceive another. Let no one despise another in any situation. Let no one from antipathy or hatred wish evil to anyone at all. Just as a mother with her own life protects her only child from hurt, so within yourself foster a limitless concern for every living creature. Display a heart of boundless love for all the world in all its height and depth and broad extent. Love unrestrained, without hate or enmity. Then, as you stand or walk, sit or lie, until overcome by drowsiness, devote your mind entirely to this. It is known as living the divine life. beautiful. Thank you. I'll start sharing with you a couple of readings. This comes from James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time. These are 3 excerpts. Love is probably, hard and odd as it may sound, the most important thing that one human being can do for another. Hence the torment and necessity of love. One can give nothing whatever without giving oneself. That is to say, risking oneself. If one cannot risk oneself, then one is simply incapable of giving. And love takes off the mask that we fear we cannot live without, and know we cannot live within. I use the word love here not merely in the personal sense, but as a state of being or a state of grace, not in the infantile American sense of being made happy, but in the tough and universal sense of quest and daring and growth. One is responsible to life. It is the small beacon in that terrifying darkness from which we come and to which we shall return. One must negotiate this passage as nobly as possible for the sake of those coming after us. Good morning again. My name is Chicken Little. Life, all life, including human life, has only one purpose, only one agenda, only one goal: to survive. Whatever other human, culturally created agendas, goals, aspirations, purposes, fantasies, etc., we humans have created are simply the overlay of our ignorant, frightened, self-aware, self-conscious, desperate human minds trying to make sense of being alive in a universe that is defined by mystery and thereby the absence of any explanation as to why and how the universe exists and why we humans are part of it and why we are able to consciously know that we are. The human construct of the scientific method is certainly trying to explain the how, but it only leads to more questions. And the why? Not answerable. Now, of course, there are plenty of other human constructs that offer explanations for both the how and the why. But they attribute the how and why to forces not verifiable by science. Attribute it to gods or whatever. But nonetheless, all human beings of consciousness operate on some kind of mind-created meaning to function on this planet. It is part of the human survival kit. Without mind-created meaning to give us a fabricated sense of purpose, we would simply die from fear and anxiety. And critical to cultivate and to sustain this mind-created meaning to function for survival has been the need for being in social groups. And this certainly has its roots in our evolutionary story. Group organizations for survival are fundamental to the survival, sustainability, and evolution of life. But we humans, we Homo sapiens, of course, over the course of 300,000 years, have managed to construct numerous options for social organization and functioning. And yet, no one model has emerged as the model for human survival. No one model for how to organize and to run a human society in the most efficacious, successful way to survive. No one model has been established. Instead, humans have lived in extremely diverse systems of rules, habits, politics, and relationships, defining how we acquire food and water, establish sexual relationships, educate ourselves, defend ourselves, control our groups, etc. These diverse systems are what some of us call cultures. So there has not been a linear line of a mono-human culture. Instead, there has been a swirling pool of often conflicting cultures that have defined the human reality as, in my opinion, one big, amazing mess. Human history and even suggestions from our prehistoric speculations have shown that, try as we humans have done, no one system of human organization has prevailed as the most effective for human survival. Every previous system of human society, from the earliest days of Homo sapiens to today, has given way to some other system. And the reason being for the same purpose, experimenting on how to survive. But it has always been for either a small group of people seeking power as the means to survival, or as a nation seeking power to preserve its survival above other nations. But never has the human species been faced with its survival as an entire species. And as a species, we are severely unprepared as to how to function socially as a world community of humans to ensure, sustain, maintain, and facilitate this imperative way to function. We simply don't have an established model to guide us. Yet some of us in our idealism have believed that any system that will serve this function of addressing the existential needs of humanity must be rooted in democracy, a system honoring the worth of every individual. And that any system that perpetuates the authoritarian dominance of one group over other groups cannot lead to solutions addressing the threats to our survival as a species. It will only hasten our demise as a species. I recently reread James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time, the powerful critique of the racist reality of American society as he viewed it in the 1960s. I first read it in high school. I had a progressive teacher who had us read it in class in the late 60s. The title, The Fire Next Time, is taken from an old spiritual song signifying a warning and a call to action, referencing the biblical story of God flooding the world with water to rid the world of its evil. This spiritual states that the next time, not water, rather the fire next time. It suggested that if society continues down its current path of racial injustice and division, the consequences will be dire, potentially leading to a destructive fire of profound social upheaval or even biblical apocalypse. Baldwin's message is all the more relevant and demanding of us than it was in 1966. For the forces to be purged from our human societies are not limited to racism in the United States. The forces to be purged are systemic and dehumanizing racial, gender, religious, economic injustices throughout the world community. For today, our human society at the center of our reality is the world community. And in addition to these human-centered injustices, the ultimate victim of injustice is what is being done to the biosphere, that which sustains our survival, period. The irony, of course, is that the injustice being inflicted upon the biosphere is most manifested by climate change, by global warming, the fire next time. And the added irony is that this fire of global warming is the catalyst for dramatically increased rainfall and therefore severe flooding. And I haven't even mentioned the prospect of a nuclear winter brought on by the fire of all fires, a nuclear war. These are the ultimate consequences of the fire next time. And yet, the fire of our participation, the fire of our confrontation of these forces of injustice is paramount to our survival. I am, as I'm sure all of you are, deeply disturbed by what is happening politically, socially, culturally, within our limited community of the United States of America. Civicus, which is a group that monitors human rights, international human rights, the United States has been added to their watch list for the first time ever as a threat to the status of freedoms and civil liberties. Our current governing federal regime, the Trump administration, and to a lesser extent for now, state and local governments have turned to doing harm, to destroying, and to inflicting cruelty as a way of governing in order to serve the survival of a select group of people. That select group, that oligarchy, are the most monetarily and materially affluent, and the mostly white and the mostly Christian of a corrupt interpretation of Christianity. It begins with attacking the most vulnerable, the most disenfranchised, the poorest, the most defenseless, the most excluded, the most marginalized. It's a form of social Darwinism, selection of only those who meet certain standards for membership and therefore merit survival, while the least worthy of such membership are subject to the forces of exclusion and ultimate deselection. The process is fueled by fear, hate, arrogance, and greed, with an understanding of survival that says survival can only be at the expense of other humans. Power over other human beings for self-serving needs, and not power with all and for all for the benefit of humanity. Such governance serves to dehumanize and thereby threatens the lives of other people. And such governance supports the denigration of environmental protections and global environmental commitments. Such governance disregards the sanctity of life and worships the accumulation of monetary and material wealth for a few at the expense of the masses, at the expense of the world community. I never believed that the United States of America would enter into a social contract with fascism. But this is what's happening. I actually believe that the greater good would prevail, because it is the greater good that is necessary to our survival as a species. But the United States is currently imprisoned in this fascist mentality. And to folks who say the United States has weathered other major crises in its history, and that the United States will emerge ever stronger, I say an extremely cautious maybe. For this crisis is global. It involves all of humanity, all 8 billion people. And it involves all of life in its diverse manifestations. And the situation is urgent, in all caps. It's not something that is simply going to be resolved by midterm elections or the next presidential election. Much damage has already been done to the role of democracy in this country, and that damage will only be more pervasive, and much of it irreversible as time goes by. So the United States, in helping to address the injustices within humanity and the egregious threats to life support of the biosphere, has not only been severely compromised, but it is also contributing to further increasing harmful, even cruel injustices within humanity worldwide, and increasing the undermining of the sustainability of the biosphere, the foundation of life itself. Unlike earlier crises, we don't have much time for things to simply get better. So to me, it really is remarkable that after 300,000 years after the emergence of Homo sapiens, we couldn't get our act together enough to prevent coming to this existentially critical juncture in human evolution, where humanity continues to find ways to abuse itself and to create an environment where the biological basis for life itself is threatened with extinction. But being the beings that we are, conscious of our existence and our relationship with creation, and our ability to create culture, and knowing that to survive is our shared instinct as human life forms, we must do what we can do individually and as societies to continue to pursue survival. But survival that is founded upon the survival of the world community, and not our self-serving patches of reality that exclude the rest of the world and exclude the biosphere. Our Unitarian Universalist Article 2 that you have, I hope you realize what a valuable tool this is in our survival struggle. The Trump regime has made every effort to cancel DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, in their trainings and programs and curriculums, in the HR policies and publications, in every aspect of American life that government can force its agendas. Nothing says fascism like nullifying the humanity of people who do not fit the required racial, economic, religious, educational, genetic, gender, you name it, check boxes of the preferred identities list. And if you look at that UU Article 2, we can't get any more DEI than this. If you are sympathetic to this Article 2, we are a true enemy of the state as it morphs into a more fascist form of government. a true enemy of the encroaching authoritarian regime. You are striving to be woke. You are subversive. You are a true supporter of, activist for, enabler of, warrior for doing what we can do to empower, to give strength to a resistance of revolutionary consequence. And if you think I am overreacting, that I'm speaking in hyperboles, I am not. Whatever direction the evolution of humanity will take will be determined by the consequences of climate change and by the forms of human organizing that will steer humanity through the consequences. And if you have children, grandchildren, or simply care about the world being inherited by the children on this planet, you are morally bound to be concerned about the prospects of survival of humanity and to consciously ask yourself, how do I be in service to love? Once again from Baldwin's The First Fire Next Time, love takes off the mask that we fear we cannot live without and know we cannot live within. And I use the word love here not merely in the personal sense, but as a state of being or a state of grace. And not in the American sense of being made happy, but in the tough and universal sense of quest, of daring and growth. He underscores this with saying that one cannot do this without giving oneself, without risking oneself. For without risking oneself, one cannot give. We can still do what we do in our day-to-day lives, our jobs, our relationships, our activities, our sources of entertainment, our travels, whatever we do to fill the time of being a conscious human being. But we can't be in retreat. We can't be in hiding. We must risk ourselves to give ourselves, to be sure to strive to be conscious at all times of the pressing reality of the threats to our survival, and to repeatedly be asking ourselves, how do I be engaged in service to love? Motivated by justice, by equity, by generosity, by interdependence, by pluralism, by transformation. The only wrong thing that you can do is to be complacent and pretend to be ignorant about what is going on. What is that axiom? If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. As Unitarian Universalists, we want to be part of the solution. The process is and will continue to be overwhelming. Fostering a truly healthy world community while keeping in check the degradation of our biosphere is beyond a huge task. But this is not simply a task. This is survival. The impulse to survive is inherent to every form of life. Again, from Baldwin, one is responsible to life. It is the small beacon in the terrifying darkness from which we came and to which we shall return. The greater the threat to survival, the more intense the impulse to survive. The problem for many of us is that we are so insulated by our layered, culturally created distractions that we think are serving our survival, that we aren't paying much attention to this approaching existential ultimatum driven by mass dehumanization and by climate change, as this ultimatum threatens to engulf humanity like a sudden tsunami, or perhaps more telling, like a wind-driven fire approaching an unprepared village. The threat is real. The threat is intense. The impulse to survive as a species must be consciously real for each of us. for we each must consciously recognize the threat and to foster, nurture, strengthen, and activate the survival impulse. And the best way to do this is for each of us to struggle with understanding what love is. For that is where the power and the guidance come from. And what is love? Well, that's the lure, isn't it? That is what it's all about. Pursuing love, using whatever resources we can, our 6 values being there to guide us. For love is our only option for survival. So am I being Chicken Little? So am I guilty of alarmism? Am I needlessly stoking fear among people, as one interpretation of the moral of Chicken Little puts it? Well, it's your call. I don't think I am. I think doing whatever little things each of us can do to confront the encroaching fire of the dehumanization of humanity and the increasing climate global baking is our moral obligation as Unitarian Universalists, as human beings. If you're not woke to that yet, it's time to wake up. We shall overcome has never been a more potent call to survival. So let us take to heart the Buddhist offering. Display a heart of boundless love for all the world in all its heightened depth and broad extent. Love unrestrained, without hate or enmity. Amen. Thank you. Let's all take a moment just to sit in quiet reflection, prayer, and meditation. Taking a deep breath and being aware of your own presence within this community, within the larger community that you live in day to day, and certainly within the world community of which you are a part, and the biosphere from whence life comes. May I who live be true unto my being, one in my thoughts, my words, and every deed. I was born free, an ever-changing river is what I am, and neighbor, so are you. We have the power through laughter, love, and tears to face all fears and live forever free.
Please rise in body or spirit and join with me in singing hymn number 170, We Are a Gentle, Angry People. As our service draws to a close, we extinguish the flame of our chalice as we say these words together. We extinguish this flame,
the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together
again.
Yeah. As the Dalai Lama has said, if you do nothing else, be kind. Especially be kind to those who Jesus used to call the least of these, those who are most disenfranchised, those who are suffering and hurting the most. Be kind. Be kind to only come back to serve you well, to serve us well, and to serve others. Thank you.
Let's end our service by waving farewell to our friends on Zoom and Zoomings, waving to us in the room.